those of us who got breakfast, thank you for the opportunity to have food, to nourish our bodies. Help us now as we move into the first session of the day. Please be with me as I present the message that I am impressed to present this morning through your guidance. Give me the words and also the understanding as we discuss this topic. Help those who are present here, who are here to learn and have open hearts to the information. Please help them to have understanding with what I'm going to share and curiosity and find ways to practically apply the information in their lives. In your name I pray, amen. All right, so again, my name is Ayanda Chikawa. I'm a clinical psychologist. For those who know me, I typically just say, call me Ayanda. I don't need to go by doctor. Usually when I present, though, I do emphasize the doctor part because I look a lot younger than I am, which I think sometimes can reduce the credibility or the perceived credibility of what I'm going to share. And so I do want to provide assurance that I am a licensed clinical psychologist. I see patients. I'm also a researcher, and I have a lot of clinical and learned experience in regards to the information I'm going to share this morning. And I'm also an associate professor as well. All right, so the focus of the presentation this morning is on understanding your personality, and not just understanding it just for the sake of having the information, but understanding it because of the necessity around what this means in regard to personal development, your relationship with God, and also how you relate to others in a healthy way. And this really taps into opportunities for personal growth, which I'm hoping those who are here today will be able to walk away with. So the agenda. First and foremost, when I present, I really try to encourage participation and active participation. I'm not the type of presenter who likes to just sit and talk. I appreciate when people talk with or talk back, and also talk with me in dialogue, and also for you to dialogue with others when we have that opportunity. And then also to take an active learning approach as we go through the information and really start to think about what does this mean for my life and how I can apply these concepts. So the first thing that I'm going to start off with is defining personality and what goes into it. And I'm also going to try to get some feedback from you all on what you think in regard to this. And then second, we're going to go through a personality temperament test. So there is a message put in the chats this morning to bring a pen or a pencil if you have one. So I'm hoping you brought one. If not, I do have backups thanks to the bookstore on the first floor. And then we're gonna end off with doing some self-reflection and practical takeaways. And I do want to say with the personality temperament test, it is not a diagnostic tool. I don't want people to walk away and be like, oh, I went to AZANA and I was diagnosed with this personality. That's not what the purpose of it is. It's really more so for self-exploration. And I specifically chose this one because it has biblical implications to it. So I think it, practically for us as Christians, I'm hoping that it will be more meaningful than maybe some of the other ones that are out there. Any questions before I get started? You don't need the paper yet. That will be handed out. If you have your pen or paper with you now, great. If you don't, I have backup. I only have 30 though, so I'm hoping a lot of people brought something to write with. Okay, so to start off with, I want us to consider these three terms. Some of them may be new to you, but I'd just like you to start thinking about what you think the difference between these three things may be. How would you define temperament? How would you define character? And how would you define personality? And I'm going to ask people to share based on what they think. So what do people think the definition or an explanation for temperament is? And we may need, I can come down, don't need to be up here the whole time. And share the mic. And I may volunteer people if I don't get hands. What do people think the word temperament is? And it doesn't have to be perfect. It helps me when I know how others are considering the information so I know how to tailor it well for the group. So temperament, how would you define that or explain that to someone if they were to ask you what it is? Actual you? Okay. So, how you, like without lived or learned experience, just kind of what you were born with. Yes, perfect. All right. Anyone else? Okay. Emotional disposition. All right. That you have kind of developed through experience, or more so because it's how you were born, your natural. Okay. All right. So people are on the right track with that in regard to like it being an innate, natural, more of a biological construct. And then what about character? What do people think is the definition or an explanation for that?
Something that's unique about you. The people, when they look at you, the way you compose yourself and how you act, how you interact.
So something that's unique about you, maybe the qualities that make up who you are, right? All right. Any other thoughts? So we can see that there's already a difference in how these two things are being defined.
I was just gonna add that character, we would break it into your attitude, your behavior, and how you interact with other people.
Thank you. So for the most part, people would be able to observe it, right? It's not just about how you're internally reacting, but also like the outward demonstration of some of the things that make up who you are. Very good. And then just for the sake of time, for personality, it's a combination of the two. So I'm gonna go to the next slide, which helps kind of explain this. And y'all were spot on. So maybe when Tatenda was saying you couldn't all have been at the top of your class, should probably be here to be like, no, everybody's answers were spot on. So we have a very intelligent group here. So when it comes to temperament, it does have to do with inborn biological nature, so inclinations that we're born with. Sometimes with babies, what we'll do is kind of classify temperaments into three simple terms and describe an infant as having more of a calm, easygoing temperament, a hesitant, maybe slow to warm temperament, and then a temperament that might be a little bit more difficult or challenging, especially if a baby is more likely to be like fussy and cry a lot. So we can already start to see aspects of temperament from the time someone is born. And we know from the Bible that God has formed us and created us with certain unique aspects to who we are. Of course, sin does play a role in some of that. For example, we see people being born with genetic defects and different neurodevelopmental delays. So it's not that everything that we present into the world with is what necessarily God would have designed for us, but we do know that we're born uniquely created with certain things that God has designed for us and our purpose to live out. And then with character, it has to do with a set of habits or qualities that are acquired through nurture. So that's lived experience. Instead of nature being how you were born, but nurture, what you have lived through, what you've been socialized through. And as we grow and mature, we develop these over a lifetime. As we get older, our character can become a little bit less flexible, especially because of repeated patterns and habits over time. But there still is opportunity to develop this, and even biblically, we see like examples and explanation of this as well. And Proverbs 11, verse 5 to 15, does a great job of explaining some of the positive and negative character aspects that we can sometimes see in humanity that can serve people well or not serve people well. And then when we think about personality, as I mentioned, it's the combination of the two. So it is the unique and relatively stable patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving that influence our interactions with others. Okay, so the main part of our time this morning is for self-reflection. I have a personality temperament test that I think I first took maybe 12 years ago. And I really, really like this test, as I was saying before, because of the way that the results link back to biblical characters. I think in a Christian setting, it provides great opportunity for self-reflection on things that are our strengths, as well as things that are challenges and areas to intentionally focus on working on. So I do have hard copies that I have some helpers who are going to pass those out. So if you have a pen or a pencil that you brought with you, this is the time to take it out. I do also have extra sets of pencils as well that can be shared. And as those are being passed out, I'll just explain how to go through this. I think I may have gone, yeah, I went one slide too fast. Okay, so I think I'm going backwards, Boomy. Can you help me get back to the first slide? I'm sorry. Just so I can give the instructions. Is this my first slide? Okay. Okay. All right, so the instructions are at the top. Essentially, what you want to do, I think these are the results. Sorry, I'm going to go back. At the top of the form that everybody has, there are instructions on how to complete the personality test. And please, again, remember, it's not a clinical test. It's not diagnostic. This is just an opportunity for self-reflection. And what I think is really important to emphasize as you all go through it, it's not going to take 45 minutes to complete. I can promise you that. And I'm here to help answer any questions if anyone has any. So the way to get the best results is to be completely honest with yourself as you go through. Even if there are some things there that you're like, oh, I love this trait. If it's not something that really describes you, respond in the way that does actually indicate how it shows up for you in your life. So if there's something that you like but it doesn't describe you, you wouldn't put a 4. You would put maybe a 1 or a 2. If there is something that you don't like and you're reading and you're like, oh, this is a horrible personality trait or a temperament trait, but it does maybe show up in your life, then you would need to put like probably a 3 or a 4 there. The way to have the most unbiased results that will give you the best information is to answer as honestly as possible. I'm going to stop talking to give you guys time, and I'm available to answer questions if anybody has any. Okay, my mom is giving me feedback, per usual, and she is saying there are some words here that, what I'll say is maybe if they were in vernacular, I would need help with defining or understanding. And so, in return, because these are in English, that maybe I should be helpful and help define some of these words. So, I don't want people to feel like shy to say if they need me to define a word. But for example, egotistical has to do with having a big ego. So confidence is a good thing, but it's like a level, multiple levels above confidence, where you maybe feel so strongly about who you are, that you're the greatest, you're the best, you don't take correction well, because you just rely on yourself and your ego. I hope that helps. Any other words, Mom? 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 Any other words? Okay, we'll address them as they come up. Thank you. And so you're responding to the list under all the sections. And sorry, I know I said I wasn't going to say anything else. Just another hint. If maybe you're stuck on how to rate a certain one, you can also consider, how would people who are close to me describe me when it comes to this? So I have 3 words that have been requested to help explain. So the word bouncy, it has to do with, can I explain it? Not necessarily just hyperactivity, but just kind of being fidgety, having difficulty sitting still, like kind of just needing to do things. like high activity level. That helps. And then extroverted and introverted. So sometimes when we think about the word extroverted, it means like, oh, someone who's very talkative, who isn't shy, and then introverted is someone who is shy. Those two words go a little bit deeper than that. Extroverted has to do with whether you can feel, let me start with introverted. Introverted has to do with maybe feeling overwhelmed when being around a lot of people. It's not that you can't navigate those spaces, but it sometimes makes you feel like your energy is more depleted or your energy levels go down after you're in social situations. And then when you're on your own, you feel more like refreshed. It's how you get your energy back. Whereas people who are extroverted have a drive to be around people more, and that's how they get more energized, and they might feel less comfortable when they've been by themselves for a while. Any others? Weak-willed has to do with being easily influenced, like having a willpower, a personal willpower that maybe can change based on other people's perceptions or circumstances. How many people are on section 2 already? Okay, some people are on 3, okay. There's a word set in section 2, frank. It has to do with being really direct in how you communicate or how you do things. So by direct, it's like you kind of say it as it is. You don't really sugarcoat. Pardon? The Papas are always frank? Okay, so maybe this is something people are already familiar with. And please feel free to ask people next to you as well. Again, if this was in Ndebele or Shona, no way. Like, I would be struggling. So I think we need to be, I guess, understanding of that, and that there may be some words on here that aren't familiar, and it's okay to ask for a definition if you need to. I could see some people working through section 3 and section 2. Again, please let me know if you have any questions. And sometimes your first initial reaction for how you would maybe rate something can be the most accurate and unbiased. I think if we can try to be done in the next 5 minutes, that would be good to give us time to score and then do a bit of discussion too. Okay, I see some people are done. I'm going to switch the PowerPoint screen so that people can start scoring. Once you've completed all 4 sections, go back and cancel out each description that you scored either a 1 or a 2 by drawing a line through that number. That score, 1 or 2, just go ahead and cancel those ones out. That score is really low, so it doesn't apply to the overall final score for each section. And then we're gonna do a little bit of math where you add up all the 3s, 4s, and 5s in each section. and add the total at the bottom of each section. So for section 1, you'll have a total score just for everything that was in that column, so going down. And then you'll have a separate score for section 2, separate score for section 3, and a separate score for section 4. But cancel out all the 1s and 2s. You don't want to include that in your addition. Only 3s, 4s, and 5s. So you should have 4 scores when you're done. Yes. There's a question. So I think we talked about the adding. We talked about the adding already, so I'm going to go to the next slide for those who are ready for that information. And then I'll come back here afterwards if needed. So for the next step, once you're done adding, there's an explanation in here of what's your personality temperament blend. And everyone has aspects of each of the 4. As you probably noticed on your sheet, there are some things that you may have given a 4 or a 5 in some sections, but it just wasn't your highest area, but you still have some characteristics of that. What the results of this personality temperament test do, though, is take your 2 highest scores and create a joint profile result. So you want to look at the 2 that you have the highest score. The one that has the highest of those 2 is the first. So if we go back, or we could use this. So for example, let's say someone scored the highest in section 2, like it shows here, choleric, and then second highest in section 4, phlegmatic, then your temperament blend would be chlor-phleg. Don't worry about the words aren't that meaningful. I just dropped a file in the attendee group, Ohio 2025 attendee group. It has the results, like the full profile result. So you'll be able to look and find the section that describes you based on the combination of your 2 highest scores. Any questions about that? Yes, come back, explain the how to get your profile. Okay, so if you have the highest score, for example, in section number 2, that means your primary is choleric. So it shortens it to chlor, but choleric. That would be your highest and your primary. And then your second highest score is your secondary, and then it combines the 2. So it's showing choleric plus phlegmatic results in the chlor-phleg. And maybe what I'll do, like I said, I just dropped the profile into the group. Yeah, is everybody in the WhatsApp group? If not, I can somehow show the results here. If you're not in it, you hopefully are sitting next to someone who is. So this is where we've been getting all our postings for this week in that WhatsApp group. And Wendy also just dropped it too. So if you open up that file, you will see the breakdown. And I can personally come and assist if anybody needs help. So once you've done your scoring, again, you're crossing out all the ones, all the twos. You add up the total score for each section. And then you take your two highest ones for section 1, 2, 3, 4, so between those. And then you will then have like the title of your profile, essentially. So on the bottom of this slide, it shows section 1 is sanguine, section 2 choleric, section 3 melancholy, section 4 phlegmatic. Any questions about this or what was on the next slide? Because of the, okay. Are you able to see here or no? If not, on this next slide, it does summarize it a little bit up here too. So you'll see section 2 choleric at the top, section 4 phlegmatic, section 1 is sanguine, section 3 is melancholy. Has anyone been able to access the profile results on the WhatsApp group? I see some head nods. Yes, okay, questions? I think I saw your hand. You've accessed it, okay, perfect. You've accessed it, perfect. And so this is, I'd say, the most important aspect of doing the test, because it's really going to show you what areas are your strengths based on how you responded, and then it's also going to show you areas of maybe opportunities for growth, things that might be challenges, and then it will give you a biblical character example for someone who likely shared the same personality temperament as you. It's pretty interesting when you read through it. Is anyone surprised with their results? For the sake of time, I know we started late, so I apologize that we're kind of having to rush through this. For the sake of time, I'm gonna move on. I hope that, yes.
Interesting for me to complete this form for my wife.
That is true. It is helpful when because it makes it less biased, right? You may get a more unbiased. So that's part of why I said you can also think about how other people would rate you, right? But maybe what I'll do is I'll drop the full form, and those who want to do it as a couple, they can do that too. But very good point. Okay, so with the last 10 minutes, let's try to do some self-reflection. And I really do encourage those who may not have been able to complete this here to try to do it even after our time together today, because it is really informative. Again, it's not clinical, it's not diagnostic, but it provides an important opportunity for self-reflection that can help with personal development. So in terms of what you did find, even if it was just as you were going through the items, what are 3 strengths of your personality that you or others seem to appreciate the most and why. So looking at your overall profile, try to start thinking about like, okay, what are 3 things that are really a positive aspect of who I am that I know serves me well in different spaces and that other people have really highlighted for me. And then think about how can I use these areas to glorify God? How can I use these areas to build on my self-growth, right? So continue to maximize and grow and develop in these areas. And then also, how can I use these areas to bless others? And I don't want to put people in a position to have to self-disclose things that they may not want to, but is there anyone who would like to share in this space their response to any one of these? So everybody should be doing like internal self-reflection, but is there anyone who wants to share a response to one of these right now? Mom? Yes, so the self-reflection is what's on here. So thinking through what are 3 strengths of my personality that I or others seem to appreciate the most and why. So you're thinking about yourself in relation to this question and reflecting on what that means. That's what self-reflection is. And then thinking about how can I use these areas to glorify God, grow in my Christian journey? How can I use these areas to build on my self-growth in different areas, whether it's in the workspace, in community, organizations you may be part of, and then how can I use these areas to bless others? Oh, okay, sorry.
Thank you. So when I scored myself, I saw that I have on the second section, choleric, and 61 on third section, which is pragmatic. So joining both would be my character, I guess, if you say it's a character or my strength. So how can I use these areas to glorify God? I know that I'm not shy when I come to where people are gathered, and it will help me be... I second that. It will help me be able to express myself when I want to talk about God to other people because I'm not shy. And number 2, I also feel like I have the strength to pass on what I have gathered, what I have studied to other people. How can I use these areas to build on my self-growth? I think that area was a little bit hard because I feel I already have my self-growth since I have arrived.
We've never all arrived, right? Paul talks about that in the Bible. It's a continuous journey. But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, but when you put it to the Bible, but I was building my own strength. But now when I put it biblically, there is no time when you are filled. You continually access what we have, build up from that, and be able to help others. In my community, how can I help other people? I'm just looking at my job. Sometimes I go there and I feel somebody's very low. I try and talk to them, encourage them, strengthen them. And in the communities, especially if I see Mr. Gawaz are not happy, when we meet at the garden, we have our community garden. I try and find out why, and I make him laugh.
I love that, thank you. And maybe some people will have traits of leadership, of being caring, understanding. So just reflecting on those and thinking about what that means in relation to these questions. And then for the sake of time, I'm gonna go to the slide that has to do with challenges. So I really encourage people to look at your profile and highlight 3 areas that are opportunities for growth. And maybe you don't feel like you need to grow in those areas, but it's likely that other people around us perceive those as things that might be difficult when they interact with us that really do present as areas of growth. And not that we should do things for other people, but as Christians, it is important that we are mindful of how we impact others and that we are a reflection of God's love. And if there are things that we are doing that don't demonstrate that, that's a target for growth in our Christian journey. So, what are 3 areas of your personality that contribute to the most challenges in your relationships with others, including your family members or those in your community? And then the questions that kind of go deeper are, how can I be more accountable regarding these challenges and surrender them to God for healing? How long have these been areas of challenge for me and for others? And then also, have I ever considered mental health therapy as a tool for growth and healing? Why or why not? And I really encourage that last part to be a point of self-reflection, just because I know sometimes in our community there can be stigma or certain thoughts about mental health therapy being for only a certain type of people, or if you are struggling with a diagnosis or an illness. Therapy can also be a tool for individual growth. There's family therapy, there's couples therapy, and it doesn't always have to be because something is going actively wrong. It can be a way of being proactive and building on areas that maybe would benefit from additional help or support. And then the other part that I want to emphasize is, if you see something in your profile or that you've selected on the list that you're like, yeah, this has been a lifetime struggle, part of the accountability piece is to start to think about, so how do I address this? Especially because it might be limiting like positive interactions with other people as well. So that is it. No, I'm trying to go forward. It's not working. Some practical takeaways that I would like people to consider based on taking this and everything that was covered this morning is trying to be intentional in understanding yourself from your perspective, but also from how others receive you as well. Prayerfully work to maximize your strengths and then also address the challenges. Explore ways to build healthier habits, boundaries, and routines. And then also strongly consider mental health therapy. That could be, like I said, individual, couples, or family as an effective tool for healing, especially for long-standing issues. So things that have been present for a while that maybe in your own strength you have not been able to overcome or see a change in. And let me do a time check. We have 2 minutes left. Any questions? You're welcome. I don't know if I'm leaving people with more confusion or understanding. It needs more time, yeah. We were short on time. Any,
Tim LaHaye is an old scholar. I just want to find out, don't we have modern scholars who have come up with other ways of checking on temperaments? Because we have used Tim LaHaye, I don't know for how many donkey years.
yes, and were you here when I first started, when I did the introduction? Not quite. Okay, so that's a very good question for those who may have come in later. So the other thing that I shared is that this is also not a diagnostic tool, and it's not something that we use in the clinical setting. The reason why I specifically chose this one is because of how it links to like a biblical concept and gives examples of biblical characters that reflect some of these characteristics. To my knowledge, I haven't seen a more current personality or temperament test that reflects that same level of profile analysis, but there are definitely like newer versions, I would say, that just reflect on temperament and personality traits, and then also some that are specific to the clinical environment as well. Does that help? Okay. So yeah, it's just a tool for self-discovery, self-exploration, that's all. Very good question, though.
My question is, since you work in clinics and you work with students and you work with people in general, are there cases you have come across where someone's personality was changed by a certain situation and they kind of got stuck in a newer personality trait?
Maybe let me make sure that I'm understanding. So what I heard you say is, are there situations where someone's personality was changed based on a situation they experienced? Okay. And they got stuck in that newer personality. Okay. So I will say that I work primarily with children and adolescents. And in that developmental change, there's still a lot of character and personality development. So even if we're considering what we call personality disorders, it's very unlikely that we would diagnose a personality disorder for someone in that age range because we still consider it to be an area of growth for them. For adults, we do start to see more stability, so less change and flexibility in personality, but there are experiences that people can have that can change their outlook in life and how they then start to interact and act based on those experiences. But oftentimes when people are adults, we do see more stability and less change in personality. Does that make sense? Okay. That was a really good question. Any other questions? All right, so for the sake of time, I'm going to wrap up. Again, I strongly encourage those who did not get a chance to finish scoring their personality temperament test to try to do that. You do have access to the profile through our WhatsApp group. And I know that some of the terms and what we discussed may seem a little bit like too lofty or too clinical, but the opportunity to take time to really reflect on where we're at in life and our characteristics is also part of our responsibility as Christians, because it impacts how we interact with those around us and also how we are growing and just reflecting the love of God. So yeah, that's it. Thank you very much, and that's all for me. You can keep the pencils.